My name's ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review It Chapter 2. So the director is Andy Muschietti. The length is really long, 2 hours 49 minutes. Quite a long film. We have Jessica Chastain as Beverly Marsh, James McAvoy as Bill Denborough, Bill Hader as Richie Tazoy, Isaiah Mustafa as Mike Hanlon, Jay Ryan as Ben Haskam, James Ranson as Eddie Kasprak, Andy Bean as Stanley Uris, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. Stephen King actually does a little cameo here as one of the shopkeeper, and you have the original cast of the kids, which I'm not going to repeat all that. So basically the story is 27 years have gone by. There's one member of this losers gang who still lives in Derry, and he's been keeping track to make sure nothing happens. And he notices this one killing, and he's starting to see kids disappear, so he calls everyone up. He's like, hey man, you guys got to show up tomorrow. So all these guys show up. One of them decides not to show up and commits suicide. He's like, I don't want to deal with it again. And they're all kind of scrambling on the ground to figure out how to fight it, as well as there's also this premonition that they're all going to die anyway. So basically figure out how to kill it or you're going to die anyway. And that's the crux of the story. So there's kind of this cutting back and forth in the story between the adults kind of have forgotten almost everything except for the guy who lives in town. He's like, hey, I got to show you all these different things. And then they keep having flashbacks. And so they go from the today to the past, where you have them at the kids in 1989, which is funny. I grew up in 1989, so it's very fresh. Except for the bike in this film, they're using like this this bike from like 1970s or something instead of a bike from the 80s. But anyway, and so they flip back and forth between the adults and the kids. So that's kind of nice. I think a good way to capture the memories, as well as you get to see how closely they cast the members, if they look like these kids or not. Some of them do, some of them not as much. I would say as far as the cast of the kids, I think, was stronger than the adults. Some of the adults are really good. Like, obviously, Jessica Chastain is pretty good, although her lines are kind of, there's not much to it, so there's not much to act there. James McAvoy is good. Everyone online's raving about Bill Hader for some reason. I think he's funny, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like any different than any other actor, I would say. Some of the acting was a little bit flat, like Mac Hanlon character. I mean, it's okay, but it doesn't come off anything special. I mean, it might have been just the script writing wasn't that great for some of the characters. They didn't flesh out the characters that well as far as some of the dynamics. And some of the dynamics also don't make sense from the past into the future. You don't have the same crushes and all this. You might have had a crush, but then later you're going to be like, whatever, you know? But they're like, oh, still. You're like, okay, it kind of doesn't make sense. It was interesting to see that the fat kid that grew up, he became this skinny, good-looking guy. And some of the actors have, gotten worse for wear. So they have that kind of nice transition. I don't know if it's all realistic. I know I've met some of my friends from high school, and some of them are in pretty good shape, but some of them don't look any better or worse. So, they could have maybe changed that up a little bit, but, it's all random how you would age, I would say. There's this nice kind of theme of redemption for hidden memories from the past that they kind of get uncovered and they want to keep hidden, the secret crushes and all this. But you're like, they're 40. Do they really care about if someone finds out they had a secret crush? I kind of doubt it, but anyway, it's just kind of they're playing off the book. It makes sense, I think, for like in your 20s, you might still feel kind of iffy about when you're 12 or whatever. But when you're 40, I don't think you'd really care. I mean, I'm 40 something. I'd be like, I really wouldn't care. Another thing I didn't like about the film, it works well in the sense of a story from Act 1, 2, 3. So in Act 2, they kind of start having these clues they have to find from their past to use in this ritual to kill off the clown in the end. And so they each go through a different memory, but then it's kind of like after the second one, you're like, all right, there's 4 more to go. They do each scene differently, but it's kind of like they're going to go in there, face it somehow, and then... So that's kind of okay, but it works as a plot device, but it's kind of gets boring after a while. They did use different scenes for each memory, so that's interesting. I don't know, maybe I would have shot it a little differently, but I guess it kind of works. In the book it works. I don't know if it necessarily works as well in the movie. It was kind of fun to see the cameo from Stephen King. If you don't know, he was kind of hitting a hit and run, so he's probably not in the best physical shape, but I think he played the part okay. I liked him better when he played Creepshow way in the 80s. He played this really crazy guy, and he plays it more believable, I think, and now he plays an old shopkeeper, but There could have been a little more meat to that role. The other really thing that kind of throws me off, like in the original It, the kids are like 12 to 13 or 14, well, maybe 10 to 12, or I don't remember what the age was, but they're young kids. They go fight the clown with kind of young kids' weapons, right? Like a spear, some rocks, I don't know. A slingshot, maybe. I don't know what they shot, but I'm not recalling the film as well, but they use like little kids' weapons. So the second time they're in their 40s and they go fight the clown with like a little piece of metal, a rock, you're like, you're in your 40s, dude. Go to the gun shop, buy some AR-15s, some shotguns, grenades. Why would you fight him with a spear, dude? You would go get some shotguns, some Glocks. I'm like, dude, go to the shooting range, fucking practice a little bit. I mean, here's what I would have done. Doesn't make sense in the film in that aspect. I mean, your 40s, you have better ideas of like how you would fight an evil, terrible weapon. I mean, obviously, the bullets might not work against Pennywise, but I don't know, bullets pretty much stop anything, or chainsaws or something. I don't know. Japanese swords. I don't know, like Pulp Fiction. And this is more logical way to try to kill some evil clown, right? So that would have been more realistic response. I know they're being true to the book, but yeah, it just doesn't ring true when you see people in their 40s like, we're gonna get a stick and go fight, and go with no weapons to fight the clown. You're like, are you kidding me? Come on, man. I think overall it's a fun film. Obviously, I was a big Stephen King fan when I was growing up reading It. I kind of saw brief glimpses of the TV version, but not the whole thing, I think. So I was really looking forward. I saw the It one. I, reviewed it, and I obviously wanted to go see the second version. And I think they did a pretty good job. The It one is better, I would say, with just the little kids. It just, some parts of the plot just don't make sense as 40-year-olds. I mean, 40-year-olds would go to a gun shop. They wouldn't go with sticks and stones to fight some evil clown. I mean, I don't know. Or at least a Rambo knife, Come on, even Rambo came better prepared, right? Yeah, these guys are just... It's kind of like a little kid's response to how you would fight a clown. That just doesn't make any sense. It might have been how Stephen King wrote it, but it just... You would go to the gun shop, dude. Even if you had to break into the Walmart, I don't know. That just didn't make sense. I mean, it follows the book, I think. But, logically, if you're in your 40s, you wouldn't be that stupid, I think. And these characters come off as smart characters, not like they're mentally retarded. So why would you go with just a stick or a rock? And they're driving cars around, so it's like they obviously know how to drive, and they have a life, and they're a writer. And so, the aspect doesn't actually make as much sense. It is interesting how they explore, too, the theme of some people became what they were supposed to become. Other people became jaded, kind of became like a risk analyst instead of a lawyer. Some kid, he stayed behind in Derry instead of going to Florida, so he didn't become anything he wanted to become. So it's kind of interesting there. They play, that lack of, which plays out, some people, I don't know if it's called lucky, but they work on their dreams and they get there, and then other people kind of get sidetracked. Like I know I got sidetracked from becoming an architect. So they have a little bit of that in there. It's a fun ride. I mean, if you I don't think you can see alone. You definitely have to see It 1 to make sense of Chapter 2. But yeah, it was fun. I just enjoyed the first one a lot better, I think, just because it's little kids being scared, and it's, more scarier for that reason. When you're 40, you're like, are these 40-year-olds really going to be that scared of this guy? I don't know. Anyway, that's my review. Hopefully you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.